What is good, guys? It's Ray J back with another video. And in this one, I want to break down what's going on with Tesla, SPY, Nvidia, the QQQ, and a couple of other tickers. I'm going to break down what's happening with the economic calendar thus far, what's going on with Tesla moving forward, what you should be watching for as time progresses, as we have some new headlines coming out that are very important. We have new developments on the charts, especially on SPY, as I found a very, very interesting pattern that could be huge for the market. It could be huge for Tesla. I want to share all of that in this video. But before I break anything down all this information, before I get into any more details, talk about some data, some charts, and things like that, let me just mention a couple of things. I am personally not a financial planner, so take nothing I say as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out the Moomoo link, which is down below and in the description. If you sign up for Moomoo and deposit $100 into the account, you are guaranteed 5 free stocks. If you deposit $1,000 or more, you're guaranteed 15 free stocks, and the offer ends in just a couple of weeks. Looking at the Tesla stock, I just want to mention right now that Tesla has this range right here between 205 and 198. We've been going back and forth for almost a week. And the question is, what will Tesla do from here? Now, to really identify this and to really contextualize this, you need to see what the data is telling us. You need to see what the news is saying about Tesla and something very important about SPY. I'm going to show you guys all of that before I break down Tesla's chart and the charts for many others. Let's first talk about some data. So tomorrow is going to be a very quiet data day. It's going to be Monday, March 4th. We only have Harker giving a speech at 11 o'clock a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And also at 11:30 a.m., we have a 3-month and 6-month bill auction coming out. All of the data is very, very minor. There's nothing too crazy coming out for tomorrow. But when it comes to earnings, we have C announcing their earnings before the market opens. After the market closes, we have GitLab and just a couple of others. And then on Tuesday, we have Neo and Target announcing their earnings. I know a lot of retail are going to be watching these. And we also have CrowdStrike, ChargePoint, Ross is another retail one to be watching for after the market closes. And later on for the week, we have more retail ones like Foot Locker, Campbell's, and the list goes on. Not to mention Big Lots on Thursday, and Costco is going to be one of the biggest ones after the market closes on Thursday. Costco is not so huge to the point where it's on par with like Apple or Microsoft, but it's one of the biggest retail stocks out there, so I'll be watching for that as well. So that being said, guys, it's going to be kind of like not the biggest of weeks for earnings, but there are some interesting retail ones coming out. And it's going to give us a good gauge of how these companies are doing amidst the current economic factors. Now, there are some headlines coming out I want to talk about which involve Tesla. So basically, Neo, Xpeng, Li Auto, and like BYD, we saw some very, very big trends. We're seeing big drops in their deliveries for the month of February. This is happening because of Chinese New Year and also possibly because of some demand issues. I wouldn't solely say it's demand issues. It could just be the new year that came out. So we'll see what happens for the month of March if there are any improvements. But I do want to note Neo sales were down 19% month over month in February because of most likely Chinese New Year, possibly some demand issues, but mainly Chinese New Year. Li Auto's the same thing. Deliveries are down 35% relative to the last January for the month of February. There's also some talk right here about BYD. Their sales are actually down 67% for their EVs relative to how many they sold in January. So that's actually a very, very big drop, 60% drop in BYD sales in just 1 month, month over month. For others out there, there's also like Xpeng, their sales are down about 24% month over month. That's also very, very important. I'm sorry, 24% compared to last year, 44% compared to last month. So a big drop in sales because of Chinese New Year. As a result of this big drop in sales in China, amidst the holiday season, there's some talk about Tesla's quarterly deliveries being at risk, possibly. There's some fears emerging because of this. And we're seeing a lot of headlines talking about this. Are there massive challenges for Q1? Some say that it's a possibility. Others are kind of like not so sure about that. I wouldn't necessarily say much until we get the numbers coming out in less than a month from now. So it's not going to take that long. But I do want to note there are some risks in China right now with the new year and also because of some demand issues and high competition. So that's getting some negative headlines, and this could be a little bit negative for Tesla. To offset this, Tesla's taking a lot of action. Tesla just announced something else. Besides other incentives and other moves Tesla's been making, they're now going to be giving away 5,000 miles of free charging if traded in a vehicle and taking delivery of a new Tesla by March 31st. So they're trying to get people to buy up those Teslas as demand has been falling thanks to high interest rates and factors like that. So we'll see how things go. On top of this, when it comes to the registrations, at least for Tesla, we did actually see a little rebound as we approached the 25th. This is the latest data that came out that I've seen. So Tesla sales didn't look that bad from what I was seeing. They did about a total of about It wasn't like that bad, but you could see registrations rose to about 10,000 from February 19th to the 25th, putting us at 24,000 registrations between the 1st and the 25th in China continuously. So not the strongest numbers in China for Tesla. A little increase for the last week, but like I said before, not the strongest. So we'll see how Tesla does. This is a little concern, so we'll see how it does. China could be very, very ambiguous too. There's a lot of things that could be going on over there, so just be a little bit careful. I also want to note that for volume for Tesla, we got 82 million, a little bit below average. And then also we tend to see the price price ratio drop as well. We saw this little drop right here in the overall short volume. So it's kind of like so at 44%. But like I was saying about the price price ratio, this went up a little bit, still kind of down overall. We'll see how this ends up performing. Tesla has been performing quite well with the market a couple of weeks ago, but as of recent, it's been like kind of flat. So we'll see what Tesla does. We're going to see a big shift in this ratio as time goes on because of that. And then on top of this, when it comes to seasonality, Mondays do tend to be green about 53% of the time. So I do hope for a green day, but that's going to depend on a lot of different factors. Also, around 1 p.m. now, Tesla tends to be more volatile and also during the second to last hour of the day. So watch for volatility at those times historically. Besides that, I'm not really seeing anything else when it comes to like inside trades or anything like that. No new analyst reports have come out. The latest one is RBC Capital, which said that Tesla's going to outperform. So not bad so far for Tesla. But with that being said, guys, please keep the news in the back of your head about how the media is saying that the sales are declining in China and how this could affect Tesla. I also want to note that Tesla does get affected by the overall market. As SPY was pumping, Tesla did end up following the trend before coming back down, but that was also because of another piece of news. But I want to call out something very important on SPY before I talk about Tesla. We have a trend that started on February 1st. I want to show you what that trend is, and it's actually very, very useful. So check this out, guys. I'm going to go back all the way back to about February 1st. So right here, notice that on February 1st, okay, starting on Thursday, so SPY was on a little downtrend as we approached February. February 1st came, it was Thursday, SPY started to reverse. February 2nd came, SPY ended up squeezing and spiking up here before it came down a little bit. It actually ended up spiking on Friday, February 2nd. Okay. Then Monday comes, it comes down. Tuesday comes, it comes down. Wednesday comes, it starts to bounce a little bit. Got a nice little push on Wednesday, consolidation for Thursday. Then Friday comes, SPY squeezes again. We form our top on Monday. Then we reverse intraday on Monday. We actually turn back down to red. And then we continue to sink. All right. Then we go a couple of weeks ago. Look at what happened after that. All right. Notice how as we approach Friday, we had Thursday, SPY turned green. Friday came, SPY spiked. Then we have Monday. SPY actually started this little downtrend and we started to sink going into Wednesday. All right. Then what happened again here? When we approach the 24th, notice that SPY started bouncing on Thursday. This actually ended up happening after we got some nice data. It pushed and it ended up spiking on Friday. Then from Friday and beyond, it started to sink. Going into Monday, it slowed down on Tuesday, consolidated. We saw this next preparation for the next move on Wednesday. Then Thursday and Friday come and we get this nice squeeze again. All right. So, what is the pattern? SPY tends to spike on Friday or Monday. We tend to see a little bit of downside as we approach like Tuesday, Wednesday, some sideways price action. Then we prepare for the next move going into like Thursday and Friday. So, what I'm trying to tell you is we got this nice little spike on SPY. And the question is, are we about to peak right here? Are we about to see this thing turn right here? There's a possibility that either it turns here or if we get one more pop and then it turns. The 4 hour does show a possibility of that, but we have to see if we get a follow through move. Same thing on the 30 minutes time frame, looking at this potential rejection that could be forming. I think two possibilities. Let me go over some levels first. I'm going to break down my prediction. So the levels are if we do turn bullish, make sure you watch resistance at this 512.5 area, 513.25 zone. And if we break that, there's 514, then 515. For support, if we come down, make sure you watch this 510.75 area if we end up losing 512. So there's 512, 510.75, 510, and then 508.5, and then 507. All right. So what do I think is going to happen? Two possibilities. Either we get one more little spike. They could try to push it one more time just to grab liquidity at 514, and then we start a little downtrend back down to like 510, if not 508, and then we could bounce after that. But don't worry about the bounce for now. Look for a little pop and drop, or we fail to get that little break, and we end up just seeing a little spike up to the 512s, and we fail to get a breakout, and then we just start sinking back down to like 510 to 508. I think either we pop and then drop to 510 to 508, or we just start sinking from here to 510 to 508. That's my prediction. The trend does support that. There's a possible rejection coming. I think that that's most likely going to happen. Now, please know this does not mean I'm a big bear. I'm not saying the market's going to crash. Okay, there's a difference between getting a little very healthy retracement based off the cycle and the pattern and us actually getting a crash. This is not a crash, guys. This is just a very healthy retracement. We saw something similar last week where SPY went from 510 all the way back down to 504 before it continued to squeeze. And I think we're going to see something similar, a little retracement before we continue back up. So I think that's what I think is going to most likely happen. I think this may affect Tesla a little negatively. Either Tesla follows the trend, but I also want to note that for Tesla, we got some negative news about the Chinese registrations. So I'm going to be very careful, especially if more headlines come out about this going into tomorrow. So please be very careful with Tesla. Now, from a technical standpoint, Tesla is range bound. Okay, we have this range. You guys can see this quite clearly. If we break 205, we're really bullish. Watch 207 and 212. If we end up losing 198, we're bearish. Watch this thing come down to 195, then 192.5, which is where we have this imbalance down here. Now, let me call out that with us trading sideways in this range, right? There is a pattern here where Tesla has a tendency of hitting this like 205 area. We tend to reject off of it and come straight down to like 198. This happened once. And we ended up hitting 200 here, so it didn't actually come down to 198, but 200. That's like the second time. Third time we hit 205, came down to 198. Now we hit about just under 205. We hit 204, and now we start to reject. So it's very likely it's going to come down to 200, if not 198, and we'll see what it does from there. So that's what this pattern suggests. The rejection we got is another sign. The technicals are another sign, and the pattern on SPY is another sign, and the negative news is another sign. So a lot of things do suggest Tesla might retrace towards 200, if not 198, and we'll see if it bounces or not. On the 30 minutes time frame, you can see how the 200 EMA is holding us. We also have resistance on the 4-hour time frame at the 200 EMA. So we'll see if we get a rejection or not, but I do believe that there's a very, very good possibility of that happening, especially as we test our 20 EMA. Again, I think it's going to be testing this again to 200. So I think Tesla is going to either get one more spike up and then come down to 200, or just drop straight to 200 and maybe even 198 and just kind of consolidates. That's the most likely possibility. Until we break 198, I can just tell you we're kind of range bound right now and may just remain range bound, but there is a risk of it coming down a little lower thanks to SPY and some negative news. But just to be safe, always know that sometimes this could be a little tricky to predict because of the news, and that's what I see on the chart for now. So look for a little spike and then drop back down to 200, if not 198, and see a little bounce from there, or it could just sink straight up to like 200, if not 198, and remain range bound. This could change depending on other factors, but that's what I'm seeing thus far. For the QQQ, okay? The QQQ is looking very, very interesting right now. We have a very, very nice uptrend thus far, but we're going to be looking to see how it reacts to this resistance as we approach this 446 area. We also have 447.5 to 448 as another resistance zone, but this is what I see for the QQQ. Very similar to Tesla and SPY. The QQQ right now, it is turning just a little bit. So we could be forming a topping signal on the 4-hour, but this is going to depend on Nvidia and other factors like other big stocks out there. So either this thing gets one more little push and we retest either 446 or 447.5, and then we reject off here and come back down towards 442, which is where we have this imbalance. We also have this breakout area around 440.75. So I do see it coming down here eventually. So either we push and then drop down there, or we fail to do so, or we just come down up a little bit, then we just end up sinking down to 442. Either way, I see 442, if not 440, coming on the QQQ. Might push up first one more time, then come down, or it might just come down from here. But I do anticipate a little healthy retracement is coming. And I think that this may be heavily dictated by other stocks out there. Nvidia is giving this thing a lot of life because Nvidia has been pushing very, very nicely. It's still on a very, very strong uptrend, but watch resistance at 832, 835, and these other levels. We also have 838 area to watch for above that. That's going to be like a lot tighter, if anything. And we'll see where it ends up rejecting. So watch that very carefully. I do believe Nvidia does have a risk of rejecting somewhere, but it's on an uptrend, so it could go a little higher. Might test 832, maybe go as high as 835, 838 around there, and then reject. But I do see this thing eventually coming down. It might push a little bit more than come down. So watch for that very, very carefully on Nvidia. I also see this imbalance down here at 812 to about 807. So I do see it eventually coming back down to 812 soon, if not 807. might push a little bit more, then come down, or just come down from here, and that might dictate the QQQ to some large extent. Finally, we have the one and only Apple stock. Not looking that great. We have this resistance zone to be watching for, this yellow trend line acting as resistance. I think it might push to test this, and we'll see if this breaks or not. If it rejects, it's going to come down to 178, if not 177.5, and then 176.5. If it breaks past this, watch 180, if not a break above that. But overall, we have a nice downtrend on Apple. It's not looking that great. It's been continuing to sink, and we'll see if this thing gets another rejection or not. So overall, looking pretty weak. It's on this like nice little downtrend, and we'll see how it does from here. With that being said, for Apple, I just want to say that this is continuing to sink, not looking the strongest, and there is a risk of this coming down, and it may actually slow down SPY. So look and see how we react to this resistance. My gut does tell me it's going to like push a little bit, maybe even get a fake break and then come back down, and it might just continue to sink down towards the lower levels, like 178 or below that, dragging the market down with it. That's what I'm seeing for Apple. As far as Tesla goes, please remember what I'm warning you guys about. Now I'm just going to go over a couple more tickers very, very quickly, give you guys more information about them. So for Rivian, this may be getting a rejection right here. I do want to mention that we have the 20 EMA at 11.35 as resistance. We could actually reject off that if we fail to break above it. We're starting to do so far. And we could come down to 11 again. So watch to see how well we hold this. If it rejects 11, could be coming. If we break this, we could see 11.5 being retested. But my gut tells me it's going to kind of reject and come back down to 11 flat. For SoFi is turning. I'm going to be looking for 8.88 to be tested. If it loses this, we could sink towards 8.73, but I do anticipate the 20 EMA is coming. So that's what I think is likely going to happen. For ARM, this is very flat right now. There's a risk of 138.9, and it could bounce off that, but it's still holding up decently. It might retrace just a bit to 138 and bounce, so watch for that. Supermicro is on a tear because of some bullish news that came out about it being listed on the S&P 500, looking pretty good thus far. It looks to me like it could get another push, but watch resistance at this 1080 area, then 1100 above that. Might push a little bit higher, and then we'll see what it does after that. But so far, I could see a little bit more upside coming. But be careful, because the last time we hit 1080, we got a little rejection, and the market could slow it down too. So look for a little bit more upside. It could push a little bit more, and we'll see how it reacts to resistance. We're actually very close. We have this imbalance up here around 1040, so I do see it actually pushing more, but then we'll see what happens after that, since we're going to be testing some tight resistance. Palantir looks kind of bearish. Watch support at this is around 24. If we lose that, 22.8 is coming. It might test that very soon. The IWM Russell 2000 is a very, very nice uptrend. It's been uptrending quite nicely, but it has a tendency of testing the 20 EMA, kind of like touching this, bouncing, touching this, and bouncing. So look for a little retracement towards 203.6. It might retrace a little bit, then try to bounce. So watch for that very carefully. For Microsoft has a nice inverse head and shoulders like structure. We have like this left shoulder here, the head, and the right shoulder. So we'll have to see what happens. Now, it does have a bullish setup, but please note we're at resistance at 415.86. This could be forming a cup and handle, so this might be like a cup. I think this might form like a handle because the market may sell off a little bit, and it still could bounce later on. Now, but watch 415.86 first. If we do break past this, we could get closer to 420. If we reject, which is starting to do so far, we could see a little retracement towards 411. So my guts does tell me it might actually retrace a little bit and then try to bounce later, forming a cup and handle. But just to be safe, let's watch for confirmation, see how it reacts to 415.86. It's still kind of indecisive. For AMD, it's uptrending very nicely, still pushing. Watch resistance at 205 and 203, 203.5, then 205 above that, but it might get a rejection off that and come back down to 200. So watch for that very, very carefully. Let's see what else is there. The VIX. The VIX is selling off a little bit, but watch 13 as support. We'll see how it reacts to 13. If it gets a little rebound off that, that could be a signal that the market may turn just temporarily. Okay, so watch for that carefully. We also have the SQQQ currently at 10.43. It's been on a very, very big downtrend as the QQQ is pumping. So it still looks very weak. There's no sign of a bounce on this yet. We'll see how it reacts to this. I wouldn't turn too bullish or bearish yet. I'm just going to wait and see. But this is still looking bearish to me. The dollar is at support. If it does sink a little bit, watch 103.8 as support. If it bounces off this 104, it could come. So watch support on this. If it gets a bounce, this could actually be a little bearish for the market. For Coinbase, very, very nice uptrend. It's still holding up nicely. Watch support at 199.8. If we lose that, we turn bearish. If we continue to push, watch 210 as resistance and 215. It looks like it might try to push higher. It looks bullish to me. But just to be safe, let's wait and see how it reacts to the market. It could still try to retest 210 plus. For Google, we look bearish. In my opinion, I think that it might come down towards 138. And if we lose that, 136.5 is coming in 135. It might actually come back down. So it looks a little bit weak to me as it rejects off the 20 EMA. Watch resistance at 138.5, 139.32, then 141. My gut tells me it's going to turn a little bit weak. For Amazon, we could either do the same thing as SPY, either spike to 180 then reject and come down to 175, or slow down to 175.4 from here. Either way, I do see a little retracement coming to Amazon. Might pop and drop or drop from here, so watch that carefully. And last but not least, for Meta, same thing. It's still very strong, still holding up nicely, but this could be a topping tail that's forming. Watch and see 505. If we hit 505, could reject near that and then retrace to about 498. Watch 500 as support as well. If 498 fails us, then we have an imbalance to fill it towards 492. So either it pops a little bit, 505 plus, and then comes down to 498, if not below that, or it just drops from here to 498 or below that. So watch for that very carefully. With that being said, guys, thank you all so much for listening. I hope you guys have an absolutely spectacular rest of the day. Remain calm, cool, and collected. I'll see you guys very soon on the next one. For all the Tesla viewers out there, please know that Tesla is not looking perfect. It has this very, very nice range. It's been going back and forth for quite a while. So we'll just see what Tesla does for now. Don't forget we have supply and demand zones. There are some negative headlines involving Chinese sales that came out, which could be a little negative for Tesla, which does give it a risk of selling off, especially because of how SPY is looking. So watch for that possible move as we open up tomorrow. All right, so I'll see you guys tomorrow morning before the market opens. I know in my videos I sometimes sound very groggy when I wake up because it's like 5 o'clock in the morning for me because I live on the west coast of the U.S. So it is what it is, but I do the best I can. So sometimes I just want to apologize for that. But just take care, guys. Enjoy the rest of the weekend. Enjoy what life has to offer, and I'll see you guys very soon, anyways, tomorrow. All right, have a great day and peace out.